1995. We were talking just before we got on here. We had you lose quite a bit from '94. Quite a bit of players, veteran guys. Talk about maybe that off season coming into the year of looking to get in the playoffs again. You've been out for 2 years, right? 93, 94, trying to get back in the mix. Um, Looking for a sixth straight city title would be the goal. Um, what's your thoughts coming into the off season? What are you looking at changing, keeping the same? Who's new on the scene?
Well, coming off of we felt just missing the playoffs by a hair, uh, and having a really good year. I talked about being close to having an undefeated season by just a handful of points. Um, but the reality was we were losing 10, 11 quality seniors, all city kids, um, that were, the backbone of that 94 team. So coming in to 95, was really a rebuilding deal for us, even though we had what we thought, a handful of top notch players coming in. But, again, when you deal in reality, you lose a 2 year starter at quarterback in Ron Warga. So you got a sophomore, Antoine Floyd, coming in, who you're expecting big things out of, but he's, any way you look at it, he's a sophomore.
Right.
Um, so John Cook coming back, Mike Klingscale is starting to develop and show signs. We're excited about uh, him and his future, and Ron Winfrey, and two guys that were really, I think, the backbone of that '95 team. Um, that really excelled for us was Robert Bailey and Jim Coolis. Both both were really good, tough, hard nosed football players. Um, and so, we were guardedly optimistic, but realistically knowing that we had quite a task in front of us.
The other thing that you didn't mention was the coaching staff. You lose Mikovic
Yes.
from the '94 season. He ends up going down to Florida for a number of years. And what did that do for you? Because I know that when he came back, minus Pope, he was your go-to guy, and I think Pope allowed you to not stay out of the defense, but um, you knew you didn't have to go over there and corral a game plan on a Saturday, right? You have a conversation or talk about something. The defense was in good hands with Pope, so I'm assuming Mick kind of helped you on the offensive side.
He did. He helped Pope too. There's no question. Mick was a big hit to our staff when he left, and filling that void was going to take some adjusting, um, because as you say, I mean, Mick and I were. I was his position coach as an assistant the year before I took over, and we were together from '88 up until '94. So yeah, there's no question. He was an integral part of the staff, and losing him was a real um, uh, issue that we knew we'd have to deal with.
It's we were as you're talking, I'm thinking, from '88 to '94, '87 to '94. That's
87, yeah.
that's 6 7 years, but that's not 6 or 7 seasons. Meaning that's almost every day that you're seeing these
Oh yeah,
guys
yeah, yeah,
in the off season,
yeah.
right? Um, that's like you said, that's an integral part, a key thing. So who do you remember who you moved up or what you did there? Because you got Pope, you got Zelensky, you got Mills, Bill Miller, Steve Zelensky, Dan Cipriano, and Lamonji still
Yeah,
there.
yeah.
And then you got looks like you got Chris Samarone and Vivakwa, either JVs or freshmen.
Right. And how I think we adjusted to mixed departure was I moved Mills to the secondary,
Okay.
um, to coaching the secondary, um, and as far as the offensive end, um, you know,
Who would have won on the phones with you? Was Mick on the phones with you at that time?
Mick was Mick. No, Mick was on the sideline. To be honest with you, um, Joe Lutzy might have been on the
Oh, okay.
phones with me.
Okay.
Um, and now, when Mick came back um, after his, his run at Jackson Milton, um, he was on the phones with me.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, and your Uncle Red was for a time on the phones. So we, and there was no offensive staff and defensive staff. I mean,
Sure.
we were all on the same deal there, and but as we said, there's no question. Mick not being there created a void, and I don't. I'll be honest. I don't know that we hired someone per se to replace him. I think we just shuffled some guys around.
Okay. You move that mic up a little bit
And
closer.
and if if to fill the void, um, you know, we probably brought somebody in on the lower level staff.
Sure. Okay. So, you looking at the team picture here, you have looks like a little bit smaller. I think I counted like 43, 45 guys. And going through doubles. What are you kind of thinking going into week 1 against Fitch?
Well, again, the psychology of all that, of how that played out, you got to figure, 91 is your, or 90 is your arrival, 91 is your breakout year, 92 is a record breaking year, 93, is is a solid year, but I mean, you're expecting better things.
Yeah.
Same with 94. Both good years, but disappointing that you're not in the playoffs.
Right.
Okay, so that's where you are, I think, mentally as a staff, that your expectations were up. Now you're searching for answers as far as why can't we get back to the dance, so to speak.
Yeah.
And you're looking for ways, and you're trying to amp up your off season. But in answer to your question, the anticipation going into the Fitch game, which was the opener, was we lost a lot, but you know how the attitude is. It's like, getting this opener could set the tone for a great year. We need to win.
Sure.
And our thoughts were always, we need to at least come out of the first 3 ahead, two out of the first three at least. Um, so you know, losing a close one to Fitch, and then getting Camel, and then losing four in a row. Um, there was some I can remember practices then, and there was some doubt, um, I think, in the kids and in the staff, as far as, well, maybe we're just not as good as we think we are. And But the old adage, stick and stay, and it'll pay. We did stick to our guns, and I mean, this is how we're doing things, and this is how we're going to continue to do things. Did we have to make adjustments because of certain personnel? Absolutely. Um, and in that process, you know, there
Well,
was,
you made the comment, not as good as we think. Maybe we're not as good as we think we are. Is that is that a not as good as we have been, or is it a self-reflective, like, we are a different team? And I'm not talking maybe from your standpoint, but I think that has to come into the conversation somewhere. If you know what I mean, like, you don't have Dwayne Thompson, and I'm not talking about this team. If you go into a year without your record breaking year, Dwayne Thompson, Ron Allen, Sylvester Patton, Rick Havrilla, Mark Heron, Magers, if you don't have those guys, the expectations might have to be different.
yeah. And like I said, losing the
Yeah.
guys that we had, those were really good players. I mean, and the key to that was, or what was the guy under center. I mean, like I said, although we felt good about the future, we were inserting a sophomore into a position and asking him to do a lot, um, as a sophomore. And
And I think that's important there, because when's the last time you started a sophomore at at this point in your career?
yeah,
Even though a great player,
yeah,
right?
yeah,
You're going to take some lumps at some point.
yeah. Because you think about the two season or the four seasons that butt up to that. Havrilla 2 years,
Hmm.
started as a junior and a senior. Warga 2 years, started as a junior and a
Right.
senior. Now
Yeah.
you got a pup coming in, taking snaps, and although athletic, and we feel is going to have a great career,
Yeah.
there's that newness to it that you can't get around.
Sure. And you're going into Fitch, Camel, Boardman.
Yeah,
And Camel, I don't think is what they had been, but they're still Camel.
they're still Camel, correct.
Yeah.
And Fitch is Fitch, and Boardman has always been a burr in our saddles,
Yeah.
and they're Division One that have a bunch of guys,
Yeah.
a bunch of big guys.
Right.
So um, yeah, I think that our expectations were um, in question.
Hmm.
I think we were like, how many times have you heard me say, we could win them all or we can lose them all. I
Yeah.
mean, uh, and you cannot erase in the back of your mind that all the good players that you lost from the year before. You know,
I think, and I think that's where probably, like Keelan was talking about, coming into the after 2000, coming in 2001 season. Um, there's a lot of players that didn't maybe have a lot of time or spark, but you knew that there was something there. So you're hoping that it translates and progresses as you anticipate. Maybe you got John Cook coming back, who's been a 1 year starter, 2 year banger for you. Um, you always hope, especially if you got a young quarterback, you want to play great defense, put sand in the clock, and have a chance to win it in the fourth quarter,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Um, how was what was the expectation for Cook coming in? Like, how did you have a conversation with him leading into the year in terms of, hey, I'm gonna lean on you heavy because we got a young guy here, and
Absolutely. You got to take some of the pressure off of this, off of the kid under center. You got to be the guy. And he was. I mean, he answered. I mean, he had an all-state year. And uh, there's that uh, adage in coaching that we're not rebuilding, we're reloading.
right,
Okay,
sure,
well,
sure,
the facts are the facts. We were rebuilding. I
mm-hmm.
mean, when you lose the guys that we lost, like I keep saying, um, there's no other way to look at it. But you're rebuilding, and um, I like I said, it jumps out at me. I can remember being in practice and and just grind and this is coming off of 4 losses in a row.
Mm-hmm.
And just feeling in the kids that almost like Lamonji's and Danny Turk's years at the beginning. Like, the kids like looking at you like, what do we need to do?
Yeah.
What do we need to do to turn this around? Well, I don't know that I had any answers for them, but their gumption, their ability to hang in paid off because then they won 4 in a row.
Yeah.
And I think that's a tribute to their belief in the program. I don't want to insinuate that cupboard was bare, because that's not the case. I mean, number one, Antoine was a good quarterback. I mean, even as a sophomore, John Cook was an all-state tailback. Ron Winfrey was a phenomenal athlete that can do a lot of different things for you. And as I said, Coors and Robert Bailey were two hard-nosed football players on both sides of the ball for us. Mike Barber was a phenomenal punter for us. I mean, he Joe Rosa was
Yeah.
a solid kicker. So all the aspects of the game. I mean, I'm not trying to paint a picture. Oh, woe is us coming in, because we had some good football players, and it's evident that, like I said, they righted the ship and got it done, and ended up winning the sixth city championship in a row, and
Yeah, sure. I mean,
salvaging this winning season.
certainly they're not, not saying. I mean, look at your first, look at your first 3 games, right? You go 1-2. You're once again a field goal away in
Yeah.
Fitch.
Yeah,
So those games are always nip tuck. You beat Camel, and then just to be quite honest with you, Boardman that year. I know it wasn't their greatest team in history, but in terms of kind of the during that era, that was their team, right? They were looking to hang their hats on that year. And I know being at Ursuline, like that was the game that we were looking at because of the group they had. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
like they were rolling through people quite a bit. Worcester, I have no idea about Worcester or
Yeah.
what they were, but you lose that one 14-7. How was that game?
Like I was telling you earlier, my memories are sitting around and just not having a good feeling about. I don't know whether it was the atmosphere or what, but just not having about being ready to play. Cook had a big day. You know, looking back at the article, um, uh, you know, and you know, another player that was all Northeastern Ohio for us and had a great year. Nick Jaminet,
Hmm.
um, uh, Eddie Zupko. I mean, all these guys were um, getting better and better as the year progressed and really became outstanding football players for us. Um, the particular Worcester game again, I remember there being a good solid back that they had and uh, causing us some problems. But the thing that stands out to most to me is that feeling, that sitting around period that I just didn't think we were ready to play, and and that's on me. That you got to be ready to play. I mean, I don't know why that comes back at me, but I think it was a game that we thought um, we could win, and
Hmm.
it got away from us.
Yeah. That's that's kind of an awkward trip. It's not. It's long, but it's not long enough to kind of get down there early, or it probably you don't make it very often. It just it's not part of your regular routine, or it's a change up to the process. You know.
There's a side story to Worcester. The last time I was in Worcester was as a player at Mount Union. We were undefeated, and we go to Worcester
Hmm.
um, on a Saturday afternoon. I mean, and we lose, and it was like number one, we were blowing everybody out. We had no thoughts of losing them. They upset us, keeps us out of the Stag Bowl,
Hmm.
uh, and so so I'm. That's what the name Worcester is weighing on me because
Yeah.
I always associate that with that. But
There you go. Maybe that was part of your funky feeling before the game.
could be,
You know.
could be. But like I said, I do remember we had a lull for some reason. Maybe we got there, and I'm pretty on the money minute wise with my itineraries.
Yeah. Right. 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 Right.
But maybe we just didn't plan right and got there early. But we were sitting in a high school lobby, dressed, waiting to take the field, and um, it just got a bad feeling that our kids weren't ready to play.
Yeah, that's one of those little when you're away from home and you don't have your routine. Those little tactics that can give you that extra little tick one way or the other.
Sure.
Um, so then you get in the city. Uh, you beat Wilson. Um, any memories of playing Wilson and how they were? Was there any?
Yeah, I think they were pretty good because we didn't blow them out, and I think what they smelled more than anything was, hey, we got Cheney for the first time in 6 years coming in, um, maybe doubting themselves,
Sure. Hmm.
and this is and we're having a decent year, and they got one win under their belt, and you know we could get them.
Hmm.
So that how that confidence level goes, and they come in full of confidence. Our kids maybe starting to doubt themselves, and you know I think that's when you earn your stripes as a coach, when you got to get when their dauber is 2 inches from the ground, and you got to convince them. And that's why I keep going back to that, remembering in practice, and that's when I remember um, putting Coors and Bailey as, like on stage saying, you know, we're going to go as these guys go.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And these are our guys. And they might have even spoke up at the time and said, you either jump on board with us or, get out because, you know, we're going after this.
Yeah. Um, East Liverpool. You go down to East Liverpool, Potter Country. You win 22-12. Um, what was it like going down on the river? Not to Steubenville.
Guy that we used to scrimmage against, Bob Fair. He was the hat down there, and um, I, I had the utmost respect for him and his program. He's an East Liverpool guy, and going there was a challenge scrimmaging, and it was certainly a challenge back to when Ed was coaching, and they had a kid. I want to say his name was Ernie Washington, a great
Mm-hmm.
back. In '74, they went down there and they were raining.
Mm.
They dropped some pamphlets from an airplane, about beating undefeated Cheney, and so East Liverpool was I guess that'll always be associated with that. But you know, again, you're on the road. It's an hour bus, and you better go down there, be ready to play. And our kids did a great job.
Yeah, I remember when when we would scrimmage them and either go down there. One year we even had a scrimmage up in at YSU.
Yeah,
Um, and they were just tough. Just
yeah,
very
yeah.
similar to what we were bringing to the table
Yep.
at that time. Just really tough, coached well, physical, um, and I just remember that being a real tough scrimmage. Not necessarily seeing some exotic offense or defense, but
Right,
you better
right.
come to play.
You better come to play. Absolutely.
Um, so then you finish up with Rain and East, and one of the things that I found kind of interesting in the Rain game was they talk about Bugsovich. So obviously you're starting to get some younger guys playing. Bugsovich getting a hit on Crenshaw, um, and if not too many. Well, I shouldn't say you don't hear about a guy like Sam Crenshaw now, but during that time he was a heck of a player,
Yes, he was.
and he ends up going to Penn State.
Penn State.
Do you have any memories of either preparing for him or uh, I'm trying to think. That would have been maybe his junior year, Crenshaw's junior year. He was not. He was not. Uh, were they throwing the ball around? Were they trying to find some creative ways to get the ball? Do you remember anything offensively that they might have been doing with him?
I don't. It would seem to me that in '95, um, they were probably still doing the bone.
Mm-hmm.
Um, uh,
Who would have took over for Turco?
um, Pete Limber, maybe.
Limber. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
and and they were struggling. They had a boatload of talent, and Pete had coached at YSU. Um, uh, he had helped there, um, but he was struggling to fit in there. Um, and what was the score in that game?
It was 14-0.
Yeah,
14-0. So, relatively tight game.
yeah,
Doesn't really give a lot of detail on whether you had opportunities or
Right, right.
whatever. But
I don't
you
know
know,
if that's and it could be. I mean, it's a lot of years ago, and um, I I recall the one time when it was rainy and really cold,
hmm
and we came out to warm up, and they didn't come out. They warmed up in the gym, uh, and our kids are rolling around and getting acclimated to the elements, and when rain came out, they were kind of like,
how do you justify that as a coach? And I don't know who the coach was there, what year it was, but how do you do that?
I,
You have lost right
I'm,
there.
yeah, right.
Game over.
I'm guessing you, and I don't recall who the coach was either, but I'm guessing it came down to, hey, you guys want to warm up inside or outside, and they're like, in, um, and okay, I
Oh
mean,
God.
so the mistake becomes giving them a choice.
Well, yeah. Well, I mean, who would have? To me, it's like it would have never occurred anywhere that I've ever been. It would have never occurred that was
Sure.
a possibility. You know what I mean? So it's not like, well, there's a choice or not a choice. Like, who would ever have thought that?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, the obvious tells you, well, you're going to play in it in 20 minutes, so
Well,
get used to it.
maybe they just knew what was about to occur. Let's save a
I'm
couple
guessing.
minutes
I'm
of warmth.
guessing it was defended. It would be defended by saying, "Well, I didn't want to expose my kids to any more of the harsh elements than they had to be."
That's
But
that sounds like a modern day type of. Come on.
yeah, I guess.
Oh, when you were kids, man, you were always outside playing football in the
Yeah.
snow.
Well, you know, yeah. I could remember at Holy Name looking out the windows, recess coming up, and you'd see like two or three snowflakes coming down and saying it's tackle.
Yeah,
Okay, and there might be a partial coating on the blacktop, and they're like, hey,
snowing.
we're good.
um. So, next you go to East 20. You win at East 27-7. Do you have any memories of that game?
I don't. Nothing jumps out at me, but I other than knowing East had a lot of talent, and I couldn't even tell you. I want to say uh, Bob. I can't think of who the coach was.
Would Leiden have been the coach at that point in
No,
time?
no, I don't think. I do not believe so. I believe Leiden's first year as the head coach would have been at best 96.
Okay.
Um,
I wonder what the dynamic of that team was, because uh
I don't know if Stanford was there then.
well, like I mentioned previously, there was a group of guys, phenomenal players, that came into Ursuline, and T.J. Rogers, Fanone Vines, Anthony Bailey, Brian Greer, and Richard. They left after the freshman year, and they all went and played at Eddie Palmer. They all went and played at East. So I remember watching a film that we had gotten, prepping for a game or something, and they were on film, and they were all there. And I can't remember what the year was, but they were super talented. And I
Yeah,
just
and then
can't remember. I wonder how it all kind of played out.
those guys were on the 97 team.
95. They were on the no. They were on the 95 team. This one. So I just don't know if they made it through. Played T.J. Rogers ended up being an all city player. He was a
Yeah, yeah,
quarterback.
I remember him.
Okay, so he would have been in there. Um, Eddie Palmer was a fullback. I think they moved him to nose man, and they would just brutalize him. But nonetheless, it was. I always kind of wondered how that played out.
Yeah,
Obviously, not as expected.
like I said, very talented. But you understand for for 15 years, our kids believe that they own the city. I mean,
Oh, well, yeah, no. I
you know,
mean, there's no doubt. I mean, what we talked a couple times ago. So 95, 93 was 93 would have been like nobody's won the city 4 consecutive years, right? Then,
unshared.
oh
Yeah,
yeah, unshared. Okay, now you're going for the sixth. You end up getting the seventh. Then you get a hiatus in the 97. Then 7 more years.
yes,
So without a doubt, and winning 7, 8, 9 games, 10 games every year, just schedule wise.
yeah.
Um, what do you? I should have looked this up. When was the last time you lost 3 games in a row?
Huh. Well, it would have been.
It's been a while. And circling back to taking over, right?
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. It would have been. It would have been 89.
Yeah.
89.
So that's 6 seasons or so that you're navigating something that you haven't
Yeah, yeah.
been through. Um, what? So looking back on the all city team, you end up getting check that, rewind that. Brook, you go down to Brook.
Yes,
So you go down to Brook either 87, 88, one time, not twice, right? You lose 3-0, I think.
yes.
And then this year you go down there again. And Brook at one point was the team in the state of West Virginia.
Absolutely.
How did you end up getting that game on your schedule?
Yeah. It was probably Bud soliciting. Bud Billard was the coach,
Okay.
and he was a legend down there, and um, I'm sure like Dick Angle at Ursuline, he's out looking for
Mm-hmm.
you know opponents, and we're people weren't lining up to play us. I mean,
Sure.
we
Right.
had our automatics with Fitch and Boardman and Camel in the city, but you're you're going down to Steubenville and playing their socks off. You're going down to Brook and playing their socks off. So the reputation is they're an up and coming team. To answer your question, um, they're looking. Ed's the AD at the time. He's looking, and
Yeah, I guess the thing from particularly at that point, schedule. If you're looking at playoffs, and okay, our goal is to win our conference championship and to make the playoffs. It's tough to make the playoffs when you're playing Fitch, Boardman. You know, maybe not two of the best teams in the state, but two top programs, right, in Northeastern Ohio, in the area, in playoffs, always in the conversation. And then, um, Brook. Like to me, that just kind of seems like, it's a difficult because field goal difference, an extra point, but the margin for error is so small with that type of schedule. It's tough. And I know the trap always is, well, if you want to, you want to be the best, you got to play the best. Well, I'm going to get that, but you know,
it probably came down to then. I don't know how much because it wasn't part of the past or even expectation that playoffs. I'm saying
Hmm.
I think it was more about the contract, more about the guarantee. What kind of guarantee are you getting? And Brooks, I'm sure Brooks' thoughts were, I don't care if you don't bring anybody, because we'll fill it up, we'll fill the stadium, and we'll
Yeah.
make our money.
So when you
Uh,
say guarantee, what kind of money what kind of cut of the gate they're going to give you for coming down?
Correct,
I got you.
correct.
Yeah.
That's
Okay.
and that's exactly why you know there was never a home and home, even when we were using YSU with Fitch,
Hmm.
because Fitch said, okay, well, they went a 50-50 deal, okay? And our attitude, the administration's attitude was, well, you know, why they're not going to come to YSU, okay? Okay, the Fitch people aren't, we're not going to have as big a gate
Right.
as we would there, and so it wasn't practical for them until I went in, and it they weren't happy. But I'm saying I go in and say, well, listen, because it came time to re-up the contract, and Fitch is starting to hedge. They're starting to say, well, we know that you're going to come to our place, and we got to get off of this 50-50 gate, okay? Um, and I'm saying, well, we need to get in a home and home with Fitch, and the attitude was, well, we can't because they'll they'll drop us.
Hmm.
I said, well, get Dick on the phone right now, get Kenny on the phone right now, and tell him that okay, if we don't go home and home, we're going to drop you. And I guarantee you, he'll sign a contract. And they didn't want to risk that, so they ended up agreeing until they just recently got out. But they ended up Cheney ended up agreeing to going to whatever percentage they worked out.
Hmm.
But it obviously favored Fitch.
I mean, the politics of it. You think about it like negotiating that. You think about like, geez, we can't afford to lose the game. Sitting on the Cheney side. The flip side is you're going to be the guy over at Fitz that says we're not bringing him in. Come on,
Yeah, right.
there's two sides of that coin. Um, but sometimes it's easier just to kind of get the deal done.
Yeah, yeah,
You know,
right,
and that
right.
doesn't make it the right way. But I remember we played Fitch at at Ursuline. I mean, one night we played him on a Thursday. We packed it. I mean, it's people would come. People would come. And I
Oh,
think that's
there
what's best for your kids.
absolutely,
You know.
absolutely. But it was all about you know. Yeah,
No, I got you.
that's a
I
road
got
I
you.
don't even want
You
to go
know, but
down.
I
But
get it. But it's a little bit easier just to say I don't have to worry about manning this concession stand and workers and ticket to and all that stuff. And if you feel like, well, you know what, we're getting a fair deal, and that's probably eh, how it went down. But it'd be the same thing with Boardman and Camel.
yeah,
Brooke, 17-7 down there. Another tight one. I mean,
yeah, it was tight, and you're 100% right. I mean, they were rolling then. I mean,
hmm
uh, they were going, and I mean, we played them again the following year, and needed it was the 10th game, and
okay.
to
I was gonna say I knew you played him to be undefeated, so I was assuming it was that following year. So you got a
yeah
2-year
96.
contract with him. Going down there was quite an event.
Yeah, you had to set up halftime in the tennis courts because it was such a walk to back to the locker room where they housed you. So and they told you that up front.
Yeah.
I mean, it's pretty intimidating. When we first went down to scout, Brooke, and you're coming into town, and it's an old fashioned West Virginia river town, and
They got the signs up on the.
signs of the players
Yep.
are up, uh, decorating the buildings, and Friday nights town shuts down, and
Hmm.
everybody puts their green and gold on and goes out to the stadium.
I wonder who
We
came.
sorry to interrupt you, but we went down to Scott one time, and they stopped the game. It was just a torrential downpour. I mean, it was thunder, lightning, and it was pouring. And we were hunkered down under a concession stand. Um, and you know what? The Brook faithful were in the middle of that 50-yard line. They didn't move. Their green and gold parkas came out, and they just hunkered down and weathered the storm until the game started again.
Oh man, I wonder who had the idea first: Steubenville for the fire-breathing horse, or Brook for the fire-breathing Bruin, or whatever bear they had down there.
Yeah, yeah. But Bud Billard, the coach there, he was a character. He was a character.
Um, so All City, John Cook, uh, Ron Winfrey, Jimmy Coolis, Robert Bailey, Nick Jaminet, Mike Clinkscale, and Antoine Floyd.
That's a hell of an all city group. I mean, every guy that you mentioned there. I mean, no question. And so you think about um, going into the year, and John Cook,
Yeah.
okay, and Ron Winfrey,
Mm-hmm.
and Nick Jaminet. Um, but the other guys developed. I
Right.
mean, they all became, I think, great players.
Yeah.
Um,
All Northeastern Ohio, Cook, Bailey, Jaminet, Coolis, and then All State, John Cook, Jimmy Coolis. That's pretty impressive. What's the process for getting guys on All State? Maybe just talk a little bit about that.
that's all a reporter.
Reporter.
You send a list
Mm-hmm.
of, and then they have votes, and they lobby, okay,
Yeah.
and but you don't have any control other than, so I'll I would send, I think Toter would have been the guy at the time, Rob Toter, and I would send him maybe 5 names that I thought were all state, and who he rates them uh, compared to the other guys in the area that his beat covers, and uh, then he votes.
Um. Yeah. So it's just kind of your presentation of the stats and the narrative and your profile.
Yeah,
Okay.
but
Um.
I'll be 100% honest. I mean, I could have probably. It's not like uh, anything's validated. I could have said Antoine threw 50 touchdown passes in '95, and he threw for 4,000 yards, and then there at that time, at least, they weren't looking at numbers or anything. Like, they were looking at names, okay, and how that name resonated to the other players in the area.
I got you. So not necessarily football guys making the decision.
Correct.
Yeah. Any final thoughts on this 1995 season?
Uh, like I said, resiliency is probably the best one word to describe that team, and development. would be the next best word. Um, Resiliency, because they weathered a horrible start
Mm-hmm.
and finished strong. Um, Even though Brooke got away from them, but finished strong, and players developed uh, from good players to outstanding players. I think a good number of them, and I look at 95, 5-4. Okay. Um, and I'm trying to figure out why we would have played 9 games.
I was just thinking that myself. Where that.
There might have been a strike in there. I would not be surprised if there was not a strike in there.
Yeah, there weren't dates on there. I'd have to go back and like actually cross reference the
And
dates of
and
the
and
articles.
and I'll tell you what school would jumps out at me as being a potential is Hubbard.
Mm, okay, that was usually later in the season, wasn't it? Or yeah, later on
Yeah,
towards.
because when we beat him in '97.
So you're saying Hubbard might have went on strike?
No,
Or you're
I'm
saying
saying
might have
that
missed that game?
we might have missed that game.
I got you. I'll do a little homework and find that one out. We'll look into that one.
Yeah,
Um, yeah, it's one of those things where ball bounces a certain way in a game, and you end up going uh, 5-4, or 6-3, or 7-2.
yeah, yeah,
You know,
yeah.
um,
But you know, think about it. The players that you lose. Um, is becomes as big a hit as you took in '94, just
sure.
about. Um,
Yeah,
because
right.
because you got Klink coming back, you got Antoine coming back, which is a pretty good way to start. Um, um, Bill Ciccarelli and Craig Lynn are both playing at the time. Um, they're coming into their own, but you're losing Cook and Bailey and Jaminet and Coolers, um, uh, Winfrey. You're losing some really good football players, and coming into '96, we had, I'm not going to start us off here, but we had good expectations, and it turned into being a banner year.
Yeah. As a little follow up for the 1995 season, are there any other thoughts that you had on maybe some players? I know one that I was thinking about. Maybe you can touch a little bit on. Was Jason Haggerty, who I think, and I forget his role, but I know when I was coaching with you, he was down there with like Pete Coma. I don't know if he was a D coordinator with Bobby Joe Gessler. I can't quite remember the dynamics, but he was down at Volney.
Correct. And I'm not sure if he took over,
I believe he did. I can't remember the timeline now.
but yeah, I am so glad that because I would be completely remiss if I didn't mention Jason Haggerty. Really a good player for us, and a program kid, and evolved into. He was so programmed, he evolved into one of our coaches, and did a phenomenal job down there.
Yeah, and I think that was always one of the things that we talked about. Let's be honest. Me coming from Ursuline, you always know that there's an element of, guys lurking for your players, and specifically at the junior high level, right? So, and that was a conversation we always had and I felt like it's one thing if a kid's in junior high and somebody's talking to him. I'm not saying that's right or wrong, but okay, we can battle that. And I always said we have to recruit those guys, which I think you did a great job of having champions down at the middle school at Volney promoting the program. And champions, I mean Gesslers, Haggerty, Coma, your guys promoting the program. What are your thoughts on having those guys down there, not just installing your offense and defense and philosophy, but promoting the program?
Well, it's absolutely key. I mean, those guys, yeah, from the Gesslers to Pete and Jason, they the job that they did, and we intertwined with them. Okay, so we would, and you know this, we would bring them to our games. They would be our sideline guys. The kids. I mean, we had a bus. We'd feed them afterwards, and they were, they were our feeder. And we knew that the development of kids within our program started certainly on that level. I mean, and that's not to discount the West Side Patriots or any other feeder that came our way, but they had to go through the beginning parts of our program at Volney Rogers.
Was do you remember if Bob was down there at the time?
Bob Gessler?
Yeah.
Well, Bob started with us,
Right.
And then, yeah, he was there for forever.
Okay. Well, I wasn't sure the transition. That's going to have to be an episode in and of itself.
Oh, there's no question, and
it may have to be multiple episodes.
This is true because Bob will offer a lot of input, and he has a lot of input, and rightfully so, because he, like I said, he started with us at the beginning, and never left, because he was always an integral part of our system.
He will have to have him on, and he'll have a ton of tales to tell. There's no doubt. And I joke, I love Bob. He was one of the first people that I tried to get when I left to run our junior high program. So that'll be an interesting one for sure.
But he can't bring his ostrich or his emu, whatever that is on Liberty, the Liberty commercials, because that's his twin.
The emu?
Yeah, the guy that when
Liberty Mutual.
Liberty Mutual, when emu.
With the one and Doug.
He's Doug. I mean, he goes through the car wash. It looks like Bobby just got out of a double.
Well, we're gonna Braden. We'll have to cut that in and get a picture for that, for the effect.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I had it. I actually had it. One of our get-togethers, I had it on my phone, and he's like, "Yeah, everybody tells me this, but yeah, I mean,
I never thought of that.
It could be his twin. There is no doubt."
Okay. And to that point and I think one of the things that I was excited about as a first year teacher, second year teacher, we kind of collaborated with sending some of our players down to West Elementary, and having our guys go into classrooms and read, and whether it was an adopt a player program or whatever, and Pope being down there, I think that was just another way to kind of build that promotion of, hey, I want to be part of what's going on up there. And I feel like that was a huge benefit of having guys that played for you, coached for you, going down into the lower levels to.
Absolutely. And it started with Volney, but then it actually evolved into Kirkmere. I'd bring a player or a couple players every year and speak at their drug symposium that they'd have. Uh, one year they had Coach Trussell and myself, and it was on the front lawn. I mean, and all these young kids, you know, you're talking K through 6, and so you know you're not recruiting then, but you're planting the seed. You're being introduced as, you know, as the head coach at Cheney High School, and you know wherever you're playing now, you know you're eventually going to play at Cheney, and you know those young kids aspire to want to go there. I mean, so that feeder system was up and running and intact.
Yeah, I think you know, the recruitment piece gets a bad connotation, but you know, you're building those relationships. You send those kids down, your players down, to elementary kids that look at them as larger than life, become their heroes. You know, we just talked to Anthony, your son, about what it was like seeing those guys, and that's what he said was looking up to him. How did you get hooked up with Kirkmere? Was there a PE teacher down there, a principal that?
It's been such a long time. I know that the counselor was very supportive. I want to say her name was White Leather, Mrs.
Okay.
White Leather.
Okay.
But there was someone, whether it was, I don't know if it was Gene Monterelli or
Okay.
somebody that was phys ed down there that connected us. And that's, and if in fact it was Gene, and I'm pretty sure it was Gene. You know, Gene was coaching somewhere else. I mean,
Right.
but you know, he played at Cheney, so he respected the program.